Let the circle be wide round the fireside, and we'll soon make room for you. Let your heart have no fear, for there's no strangers here, just friends that you never knew. Shake the hand of the man from the far distant land, meet him and treat him well. And that young girl so fair, that's sitting over there, she's a whole way from Iran, and she's going to sing for us. Give her a big round of applause, please. She's got a story to tell and a song to sing. So let the circle be wide round the fireside, and we'll soon make room for you. Let your heart have no fear, for there's no strangers here, just friends that you never knew. Oh. Well, here we have the well-known Millar Memorial Pipe Band on the march, and here in the Skinno Centre we've got lots of great musicians, singers, storytellers, poets and all the rest of it, and members of that Millar Memorial Pipe Band sitting here beside us. Give them a big warm welcome. James Millar, tell me who all is here from the band tonight.
Okay, so we've got myself, I'm the conductor of the band. We have Ray. Ray's been in the band 29 years, I think it is, yeah? Right. Marcus is the secretary of the band, and Neville's also one of the longest serving members. Neville's been in the band 48 years.
The band have been going a long time. When did it begin?
The band began in 1911 in the Shaw's Bridge area of South Belfast. Originally we were called the Milltown Flute Band, and then John Millar was the first conductor and one of the founder members. And then in 1918, John unfortunately passed away with an illness believed to have been tuberculosis. So in his memory, the band renamed to the Millar Memorial Flute Band, and it's been like that ever since.
So you've been playing all during the past 100 years, more than 100 years now.
Yes, we're actually one of the very few bands in Belfast to have marched through the whole 100 years of Northern Ireland and beyond. And this time last year, we actually brought out a new book which highlights that fact. So yes, it's a very proud indeed to be on the go that long.
How important do you feel that the marching band tradition is nowadays?
I think it's more important than ever. I mean, it gives young people a sense of belonging, a sense of discipleship. Teaches them music, but as well as that, I mean, there are somewhere in the region of 660 bands in Northern Ireland, and it does do a lot as well for the economy in terms of things like buses and bookings of venues and places like that. But I mean, the marching band scene is still very strong, and in certain places in the country growing in popularity.
Wonderful. Well, we're looking forward to hearing another piece from you later on. There's a man that we're going to meet now that I met him a few years ago. Never really got a proper chat with him until tonight, actually, come to think of it. He's a writer. He's trained football teams all over the world. He's a poet. He's a philosopher. And he's walking this direction at this very moment. Please welcome Mr. Jake Gallagher. Jake, how are you doing?
I'm fine.
This is not your first visit to this. Well, maybe it wasn't always a building, was it?
No, when I was a child, it was a graveyard, an old Victorian cemetery, and we would pass it on the way up to the New Princess Cinema, and on the way back, there was a bakery in there called Baines's Bakery. Baines's Bakery bakes bad bread. That was the alliteration we would use on the way by. And you could go in when you were coming home, and the big trays of loaves out cooling in the courtyard, and you could steal a loaf, and you could sit down on the gravestones in the graveyard. It was just here, big flat Victorian graves there were then. And sometimes somebody would put on a white sheet and run across the graves and pretend they were a ghost. And the drunks going home from the pubs believed the place was haunted. And so it was. But anyway, that's what this was when I was a child. And then there was a church built after the war, and it became the Methodist Church. And there was a boys' brigade here, and I was a member of that boys' brigade, the 103rd Methodist Boys' Brigade. I was not a Methodist.
Maybe not a Methodist, Jake, but you certainly were an adventurer. Tell us a little bit about some of your travels.
I was an instructor for FIFA, a coaching instructor and a technical advisor for FIFA in the matter of soccer coaching. And I coached in 40 countries all over the world. In Africa, Libya, Egypt, Somalia, Sudan, Ethiopia, and Zambia, Seychelles, that was nice. And all over Asia, in China about 20 times, coaching there. And in the period from 1979 to 2007, I would have visited about 40 countries.
Wow, what an adventurous life, Jake. And we're only scraping the surface here. But you have a poem for us before you go.
Maybe tell us about that.
It's a tribute to the bands like Millar Memorial and Ballykeel, because when I was a child, Number 6 District would meet in Templemore Avenue and parade to the 12th. The bands would come with the lodges from the Master's house, and then they would gather, Number 6 District would gather there and go to the field at Finicky Road North. It doesn't go to Finicky Road North now. But anyway, I wrote this poem because it reminded me of what it was like to stand there waiting for the bands to come. It's called Echoes of the 12th, and it's a tribute to Gertrude Starr Flute Band. The band playing in my dreams would be playing still when I awoke. Shrill reveille of flutes, staccato snares, pulsing, pounding, lambeg drums summoned me to the road, lined with the curious and loyal. In structured Eucharistic obeisance, children at the front knelt beside seated pensioners, whose chairs placed there an hour before now formed the limits of the marcher's corridor. Here they come. As they marched past, my heart would beat in time to the primitive rhythm of their shuffling progress. I'd study the history of my religion on the orange and purple banners flaunted at the breeze and all the enemies of freedom. How I envied my contemporaries entrusted with a banner string, my collar-headed sabre-wielding elders, and the fluters, elbows raised, shoulders hunched, and hearts a-thrill. The ritual rendering echoed in my ears long after they had passed, and echoes still.
We're called An Choristia, or the Loch Penny, and Jackie and myself have been singing the last few years. We met at a folk festival in Scotland a few years ago, and she's been singing in my ear ever since. I'm a wincher and show all the tourists. I'm a teacher here with the Tourists, the organisation based here, founded by Linda Ervine, and we do a few songs in Irish. We have a wee music group here, and out of that has sprung a few new songs and things. And this particular song is a Robbie Burns song in Irish with a wee bit of Scots at the end there to keep Jackie happy. So, and the thing about Robbie Burns is not many people know that he had connections here. He had a sister who lived in Dundalk, and is actually buried there. Not many people know that. And he's also said to have visited here on one occasion and landed in Donaghadee.
Forever, deep in her drunk tears, I'll pledge thee. Warring sighs and groans, I'll wage thee.
A lovely version of Ephon Kiss from An Choristia.
Not too sure if anyone remembers it or not.
The late great Crawford Howard from East Belfast. He wrote the Diagonal Steam Trap. But this is another one.
For as I went a-walking through Belfast one day, I met a young rebel and to me did say, I'll bet you a fiver, one thing you won't try, where your size shop that falls on that 12th of July. Well, I walked up the falls from beginning to end. With my sash on my back, I was treated like a friend. I collected my fiver and still did not stop. With my sash on my back and my coat on the top. Well, says I, young shaver, I'll give you my reply.
You can have your cash back if three things you will try.
Shout up the Republic and the border must go, and to hell with King Billy going down Sandy Road. Says he, sure that's easy, I'll do it today. And I prayed for his soul as he wandered away. He was back in an hour without the police, and to my surprise he was still in one piece. I give him his money and shook him by the hand. How did you do it? I don't understand. If you'd shouted those words, I'd have kicked you to death. Says he, sure I shouted them under my breath. So the moral of my story is plain to be seen. There's very brave fellows, both orange and green. Be it St. Patrick's Day or the 12th of July, if you play with the head, you will always get by. Cover now. Before you play, tell us a little bit about yourself and how did you make it the whole way from Iran to here? And
Yes, tonight it's a pleasure. Thank you for caring about us, refugees and asylum seekers. As you see in the news these days, situation in Iran is really crazy. Since I came here, I found so many good friends, and it's my pleasure that at least I found a free space, somewhere that I can be free, wear what I want, think how I want to think. And it's crazy. It's not you have it for granted, but in Iran, if you're a woman and if you want to think the way you want, if you want to wear what you want, you will be in trouble. It's not crazy, but it is. And it wasn't like that 40 years ago, and after revolution it happened. But there is a new revolution that is happening right now in Iran streets, and it is a revolution, and women, they are the leaders of this revolution. Since I arrived here, maybe you saw me in news somewhere, but I started to work with Beyond the Skin charity and Darren Ferguson, and I'm the guitar club teacher for asylum seekers in Ohio Music Center since I arrived, actually, and it's more than 1 year, I guess. I should say this, it's somehow a mashup, the way that I just add some songs together, and I want to play these songs for you. Hope you enjoy. سلطان قلبم تو هستی، تو هستی، دروازه های دلم را شکستی، پیمان یاری به قلبم تو بستی، با من پیوستی. اکنون اگر از تو دورم به هر جا، بر یار دیگر نبندم دلم را، سرشارم از آرزو و تمنای یار زیبا. You're the light, you're the night, you're the color of my blood, you're the cure, you're the pain, you're the only thing I wanna touch. Never knew that it could mean so much, so much. You're the fear, I don't care, 'cause I've never been so high. Follow me to the dark, let me take you past the satellites. You can see the world you brought to life, to life. So love me like you do, la la, love me like you do. Love me like you do, la la, love me like you do. Touch me like you do, ta ta, touch me like you do. What are you waiting for?
A beautiful medley of songs and music from Shiva the whole way from Iran. And from right beside us here in East Belfast, Mr. Brian Ervine.
This is called Her Majesty Titanic, okay? Thousands built her firm and true at Harland and Wolff. In Thompson's dock she grew, majestically, majestically. Belfast loved her with devotion, launched with cheers and glad emotion. Sovereign queen of all the ocean, Her Majesty, Her Majesty. Sail away, from Queen's Island sail away, soon to meet that fateful day in the cold Atlantic Sea. She gripped the world's imagination, biggest ship of any nation, invincible her reputation, and it grew and it grew. They said that she would last forever, summit of mankind's endeavor. Even heaven could not sink her. They never knew, they never knew. Sail away, from Southampton sail away, on that 10th of April day, 4 nights from your destiny. Plough the waves, gigantic ship, on your first and only trip, regal and magnificent, like a doomed Leviathan. Near midnight far off Newfoundland, the iceberg cut the fatal wound, sliced your starboard hull and proved that you were mortal after all. Above the screaming and the panic, the band played on gored Titanic. Music drifted o'er the sea, nearer now, my God, to thee. Groaning foghorn, wailing cry, she's all lit up against night sky. Took 2¼ hours to die, with slow stately dignity. Lifeboats scattered all around, White Star's Queen dives slowly down. With 1,500 souls she drowned, forever lost in icy sea. Vision of the world's great nations, mankind's hopes and aspirations, symbol of a generation, dead in cold Atlantic Sea. She still haunts the Belfast slipways, when night falls round misty gantries. We see her in our dreaming fancies, a phantom ship against the quay. She glides away, still glides away, from Queen's Island glides away, underneath a spectral sky, a ghostly ship on ghostly sea. Remember her with deep devotion, recall with tears and sad emotion, sovereign queen of all the ocean, Her Majesty, Her Majesty. Sovereign tears and sad emotion, sovereign queen of all the ocean, Her Majesty, Her Majesty. Sovereign queen of all the ocean, Her Majesty, Her Majesty.
Brian Ervine. And Brian, you have someone down at the door. Would you introduce him to us?
Call upon young Matthew Wilson, he's only 18, Queen's student, a wonderful virtuoso.
Well, as the wonderful piping of young Matthew Wilson fades into the distance, I would like to call upon a very special woman here tonight.
A woman who's known more and more, better known in this island and in the Highlands and Islands as well. Please welcome Linda Ervine. Linda, I'm invited to meet up with you. And I know that this place where we are at the moment, this is where a lot of your work is done.
Yes, I'm based in the Skinner Centre.
How did your interest and wonderful interest in the Irish language begin?
Well, it was an accident really. I lived behind the mission and I was part of a cross-community women's group. One week we met here in East Belfast Mission and the next week we met in Shortstrand Community Centre, Catholic women and Protestant women. And we did a 6-week taster in the Irish language. And I always say at the time it was interesting because the women from the Short Strand, the Catholic women, had no interest whatsoever in the Irish language. And this was 11 years ago, and they had much more interest in the royal wedding that was just about to happen and what Kate's dress was going to look like. And it was us, the prods, that kind of took on to it a bit and were texting each other these wee words that we couldn't pronounce. But I was the one that really got interested, and I started going to classes over in Dryhead in the Armour Road.
How did the Presbyterian and the Irish language, when did that wedding take place?
Well, I was very interested when I started to read about the language because I suppose before I started learning Irish, I had a perception of who spoke Irish or what the language was all about. And I remember then reading Rory O'Blaney's book, Presbyterians in the Irish Language, and Brian would tell you, I'd have sat in the settee flicking through this going, Brian, did you know? Did anybody ever tell you about? And I was really shocked, and I read Snoddy's Hidden Ulster and a number of books produced by the Ultalk Trust, and it was a real awakening for me. So I am a Presbyterian, and it gave me such a sense of belonging when I read that in the 1830s the Presbyterian Assembly they called the Irish language our sweet and memorable mother tongue. And in the 1840s, they made it a requirement that all of their trainee ministers would have a knowledge of the language. And that was because so many of their congregations, their first language wasn't English. And if you look at the kind of early Presbyterian church, well, there's a lot of people who'd come over from Scotland, the majority who would have been Scots-speaking, but of course the Scots language is littered with Gaelic. But a good number of them were also Gaelic speakers. And then also in the early Presbyterian church, there's a lot of Irish names because a lot of them were converts. So, you know, we're a very complicated people. We're not just one thing or the other. We're a whole mixture. We come from all sorts of peoples and places, and we made here our home.
And that sense of diversity is really what makes us rich culturally.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think what angers me is, you know, here in Northern Ireland, we just try to make everything black and white and we deny parts of ourselves. Well, you know, when I look at my own background, on my father's side, my grandfather was from London and my nanny was from a couple of streets away from here, very Ulster Scots name. On my mother's side, my grandmother was a Catholic woman, Kathleen Kelly from Clifton Street, and my grandfather was a Presbyterian but with a very Irish name. So, you know, what does that make me? Like everybody here, I'm a mixture, I'm a hybrid, but that doesn't take anything away from me. But what it says is that I have this richness of Ireland and Scotland and England and other places, and all of these things belong to me.
How many students do you have at the moment?
Over 400 people have signed up this year, and it's always really, really busy, which is great. We have classes on a Monday, Tuesday, and then tonight on a Thursday. We also have a singing class, and you heard Jaff there and his wife Jackie, and which I think they just epitomise that Irish-Scottish thing going on. And Jaff he runs the singing class, so we have a group of Ceol. We also then have a family class for parents and children, which happens on a Saturday. Our classes are for all levels, from total beginners right up to Ervine. And then, of course, we run the little Niscall, the little Irish medium nursery school, which has just grown. And we've actually going to have to close the doors at the minute because we have so many children that we're full up, and that's a fantastic place to be.
Speaking about Scottish, Gaelic, is there much difference, or?
Yes, well, I mean, originally they were the same language, and Scottish Gaelic, Irish Gaelic, and Manx Gaelic, they're now known as sister languages.
What you're doing is freeing people, I think, in many ways. Not only both sides of the community.
Thankfully, we do live in the Northern Ireland where we have moved on a lot. People have the freedom to be gay, people have the freedom to express their identity in ways that you couldn't have done in, say, the 60s or the 70s. And so we're moving in the right direction.
Linda, thank you very much.
Oh, geniali Vajdich.
Is Gallagher so Gary Holland should is Yawan Lilla Arnyanton is Fearlan and Tishka Aruhan Sawine Agasaya Marun Jack
Halin Doikuli, is Bemri, Brishka Brucha, Kashiri, is Jaragaros, Sayari Holland Shoot, is Yawan Vela, Saya Morun Shark
You did a little program on place names, and I suppose the importance of knowing the language to understand what the town land is about or the place is about.
Yeah, it's a very fascinating subject, and it often draws people into learning about the language, because in East Belfast here, for example, there's a great richness of place names, really, really beautiful names like Lisnasharach, the Fort of the Foals. Over in the County Down there, around the County Down coast, you have some slightly comical names, I have to say, like Groomsport, which is Port na Gallagher, or the Port of the Dreary Servant. Christ to me was Donach Adi. Donach Adi is the Church of the Dunce. I'm sure there's a story to that. And so there's a lot of the place names when they're translated are fascinating. And some places that used to have a full-on Gaelic place name, such as Saintfield, are actually translations of the original Gaelic. And Saintfield was originally known as Townie na Niamh, or the Field of the Saints. So at some stage, when they decided to call it Saintfield, people still understood what the Gaelic version meant and chose to translate it into English. So there's a great history to it, and some of the place names, possibly Belfarstia itself, they might go back hundreds, maybe as much as a couple of thousand years. You know, there's some very, very old place names that are Gaelic, but maybe pre-Gaelic, maybe Old Celtic. It's only in Ireland and in the Highlands of Scotland and in the Hebrides where you have the concept of a townland. And when the British Army Ordnance Survey, people back in the 1830s, mapped all of Ireland, they came up with a list of 60,000 townlands. And so I'm not sure what area of land constitutes a townland, but just about everywhere has a name of some sort, and there's usually, certainly in areas where Irish is still spoken, there's a story to go with that particular place name. The last native speaker of Gaelic from Rathlin Island died back in 2010, a man called Alex Morrison, who had a Presbyterian background, by the way, and another fellow I know, Brian McLaughlin, collected over 400 place names from Alex Morrison. 400 place names on Rathlin Island. You wouldn't think you could fit that many place names on one island. Every rock had a name, every beach, every cave, every hill, every tuft of soil had a name. So, fascinating.
It is fascinating. And, when we were growing up at home in the countryside, every field had a name as well, and you'd know each field it had a name. Thank you very much for coming along. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Many, many thanks to all, and
Please.
one for the road.
Give a big warm welcome back to Millar Memorial.